Hi everyone, I'm Tally, this is Farrell, and we are bored of it. Maybe you can see our dog Sven here. And welcome to our best board games that we didn't review from 2022.
Yeah, so as reviewers, we only get time to review a handful each month. And there's a lot of games that we really enjoy that we don't review. And some might just be because we don't get round to it. Some might be because we don't think they'd be interested if we put a video. Say if it's a smaller party game, even if we've played it a lot and love it and want to share it. So we thought we'd compile a bunch of these games together. And we're going to tell you why we enjoy them and what's so great about them. So I think we can just get straight to the big pile of games.
Okay, so the first game we want to talk about is Clover. This is a cooperative word game. I'll put it in similar ilk as something like Decrypto or Codenames.
Yeah.
Except there's no teams. Everyone really is working together.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess there's one team, right? Because you're a team.
All right. Very wholesome. Calm down.
Yeah.
Okay, opposing teams.
Yep.
And everyone pulls out some cards that have words on it, but each card has kind of 4 words on it. And on your personal Clover, you have a marker pen. You can write on your Clover. And on each side of the Clover, there's 2 words, and you have to write something that you can think of to try and link those 2 words, because what's going to happen is everyone's going to put their Clover in the middle, along with the cards, plus throw in a random card. And your one team, all your teammates, your one team, has to figure out how to place the cards in the right side of the Clover by the clue that you have given, basically. Some of the words, obviously similar to Codenames, are quite similar or are really difficult to link together. So a lot of it, you've got to just hope for the best and make sure, try to get at least some of the cards in the right placement, and hopefully they can figure out the rest.
Yeah.
But essentially, you get more points for putting the cards in the right place kind of on the first go, and the more attempts your team has to take, the less points that you get, essentially.
Yeah, and if you get it first time, you get like some bonus points. So the best score in the game is for everyone to get
one hit, like one shot, and then
everything straight in the right order.
Yeah.
So this is something that we played for the first time quite late last year.
Christmas,
Christmas, because your family came over and it was like a new kind of little party game to play with them. And it was an instant hit with everyone. We played it a lot of times, over and over and over. And then we introduced it to my family when we went back for New Year's, and they loved it as well. And I guess the background is we all, like our families, we love Codenames. And I think it's our most played game of all time, just because it's so quick and easy to play, right? If you're counting individual games, not sessions. So this is similar, but different enough that it felt fresh and engaging. And I like the twist that you're working together, because while it's fun to have the kind of competitiveness, it's also surprisingly fun to all be working together to guess. And it's fun to be the person whose clues you're guessing, because it's like so painful to have people talk about it and put it in the right way and then change it. And it's also fun to obviously guess as well, and teamwork.
I think I was surprised how much I enjoyed it, because I'm not typically a fan of like co-op games. I prefer the competitive edge. But I think you're right, because there is one person who's out of it every round. There's still this like element of tension and wanting to push forward and for your teammates to get it in the right order. So for me, there's still a drive in a way. It's not competitive because you're working together, but it is in a way because you want to be the one that like gets the right clues or guesses the clues, or is the clue giver and have everyone guess your cards in the right order in the first go. It gives like some kind of like satisfaction.
I think what I really enjoy as well, maybe one aspect, is one of the problems with Codenames can be that you give a clue, and then if they just don't see the connection, it can be a little bit stagnant, or they're just like, well, I don't know what the words are. Whereas here, you know the words are there, so you have like this foundation, right?
Yeah.
So it makes you have like a conversation every time, because you know the words here. You're like, well, this could go here or that could go here. It's not like you're just trying to guess out of nothing.
Yeah.
And having 25 words, you could say. Yeah. Well, you kind of do, but I just think it's like a bit more streamlined that way.
Yeah.
Also think a bonus point is just the tactility of the game. It's fun to play and touch, because you're popping these like cards in, taking them out.
Yeah.
It's like physical and fun as well, and also just to write in the clovers, and so the components get a good bonus, I think. But yeah, so that is So Clover, and if you like Codenames, if you like the crypto, if you like those kind of games, I definitely think it's worth checking out, and us and our families have loved it, basically. Next up, we have Royal Visit, a head-to-head two-player game from famed designer Rainer Knizia. And this is one we also got quite late last year. And again, was an instant hit for us. I think I'd heard a lot of nice things about it from Quint on Sharp and Sit Down. And it's something that kind of lay in the back of my brain for a while. I thought, let's give it a go. And it is great both in production quality and just as a head-to-head quick playing game. So it's basically a tug-of-war game, very simple, using kind of a deck of cards. And the way it works is you'll have a hand of cards. I can't remember if it's like 7 or 8, but you'll have this hand of cards, and on your turn you can play any number of cards, but they will have to be the same suit. And the suits are the wizard, the jester, the guards, and the king. And these are all represented by tokens on this kind of rectangular mat with like sections, kind of like if you imagine like an American football field and the yard lines. And on each end is like My Chateau and Tally Chateau. And you're trying to get the king to visit you. So when you play these cards, they'll have values on them. And, it'll be like Jester 3. And if I play Jester 3, Jester 2, Jester 3, the Jester will move 8 spaces towards my side. And there's basically some rules where the king always has to be between the 2 guardsmen, and you win instantly if you get the king to your chateau. So you'll need to move them and then move the king. Alternatively, it's like the wizard has special power that lets you warp to him, but keep the rule of these guards people and the king. So if you can move the guards person far enough, you can warp the king like 10 spaces, move the king. So there's a lot of different things here. And the jester acts as wild, and it's all about, are they closer to your side or your opponents? And it's just like really sharp. There's a lot of ways to win, because you also get points for having people kind of in your chateau, and you get points per person every round. So you could also just have like 3 people there, and you'll be moving it closer. And if the tracker reaches the end of your side, you win instantly. So it's quite tactical. There's like a lot of different things to consider. Whatever you're doing, you're leaving something for your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why we love it so much, right? It's so simple. Like a handful of components, some mats, some cards, and some tokens, and the strategies that are available to you. Like you said, the different ways that you can win, the ways that you can manipulate the different tokens. Yeah, I think it's quite genius, actually. And it's just a really perfect game if you've got, 20, 30 minutes to play something, and you just want to have a quick game of something or a little warm up. We played it a lot with our friend who was coming to visit when the other person was out walking the dogs or something, right? Let's just have a quick game of Royal Visit. Yeah. And it's very transportable, so I think that's really cool as well. And like you said already, the production quality is just amazing. I think chunky tokens is always going to be a winner for me.
Chunky wooden tokens and a cloth so player mat. And then the cards are like really high quality, like really nice artwork. So
it's just simple, engaging, surprising amount of depth to it, and it's just fun.
Yeah, I think if you just want, that's the thing. I almost can say light to play a game, but it's like tactical as well. It's quite, it's just really engaging and quick, and it's something that, even though we do have a lot of 2-player games, it's definitely something I want to play again. And it's probably one you get out and you play like 3 times in a row.
Definitely.
In like an hour, and you.
Yeah, you just always have to go with whatever cards you're drawing into your hand, right? So you're always rethinking the scenario, and I think that's very engaging, keeps you engaged. Okay, actually, no. Now I've drawn loads of Jester cards, I have to like pivot a little bit, and it's just perfect for a 20-30 minute game, I think.
Yeah, perfect tug of war game.
Yeah.
So that was Royal Visit.
Okay, so next up we have Brian Boru, which is a game by Pierre Sylvester. It is a trick-taking game about Brian Boru, who is the king who united Ireland. And essentially Ireland is broken out into different regions, and you as a player is kind of trying to gain control of the regions.
Yeah, unite the different clans.
Unite the different clans and bring everyone together, but to do that I guess you need influence in each of the regions. Yeah. And everyone will have a kind of hand of cards each round. There's 3 rounds, right? And each one has, so you've got red, which is like Vikings. Yellow cards are marriage cards, because you can make a strategic marriage alliance as well. And then the blue ones are kind of church or religion cards. But each one has a value on it from 1 to 25, right?
Yes.
And the person starting will kind of choose a town within a region that everyone's going to kind of go after. And to win that region, you have to match the colour of it, which is the yellow, red or blue, and have the highest value when you put your hand down. But there's a lot of different strategies that come up here, because like I said, you have a marriage track, and that will get you various benefits throughout the game.
If you marry.
If you manage to marry the person. So it's not always about just taking the town in the region. You actually might want to forego that in order to go up the marriage track instead, because it gets you some other bonus. Or the Viking track, you want to kill the most Vikings. Or
the church track, where you kind of double the value of one of your towns if you're the most pious.
Yeah.
But this all happens because the cards, they have a win condition and a lose condition on them. So you get rewards if you lose, or you get rewards if you win. But when you win, it's almost always the town, and maybe some other bonuses, but usually not.
But it's not as good as the lose condition.
Yeah,
exactly. So sometimes you might just play a lower card, knowing full well that you're not going to win the town, but actually you want to maybe get more money, because that allows you to expand your kind of reach and influence as well. So it's much more than just the high value trick taking part. In fact, you could probably go all game just getting the lose conditions and maybe still win in other ways, right? Maybe not.
I think you need to control some regions, because you do get a lot of points.
You have to control one, but if you kept getting money, you could kept doing the expansion. You might end up with like the same amount of towns.
That's true.
So it is a lot more than just like the trick taking. There's a lot of things going on there. And then every
mini games.
Little mini games, exactly. And then if you get to marry the bachelor or bachelorette, maybe that will again get you'll be able to put a disc down. So again, you didn't necessarily have to win the battle. So it's all about playing the right cards at the right time in order to get those kind of either win or lose rewards and conditions, and expand your influence essentially. But there's various ways to get points. It's kind of you'll get points from controlling each region, but other ways to get points as well, like being on the religion. It's not a track, is it? But you put tokens towards in the religion part of the board, and whoever gets the most points wins.
Yep. So I think really enjoy this. So you might know Phil Sylvester from doing King is Dead, and it's also from Osprey Games with the excellent production. I mean, they always do wonderful artwork and production. And this is one of my, if not my favorite game to teach, actually. I think I really enjoy playing this because it's lightweight enough to explain easily, and everyone gets involved really quickly, especially because you play rounds and they play out the same, basically. But it's complex enough that it's interesting to people who prefer heavier games, or it's not a party game, right? But it's a really nice level that will, I think, cover a lot of different kind of types of gamers.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy explaining it because it's just kind of funny. It's really funny to be like, so if you play these cards, you get to marry the bachelor. And it's just like, over here, you're religious. And it's like, you have to fight the Vikings. And there's just a lot of cool little rules, like you want to fight off the Vikings. Because if you get the most, you get like these kind of like half victory point tokens that will give you points every round if you've killed the most. And if you get more, you're getting more points. But also, if you kill the least Vikings, then you get raided. So it's like this nice, fun little twist and balance. And, you know, and I really like the trick taking in that usually you have to play a color of the color that, you know, is the trick currently. But in this game, you can play whatever color you want to get the reward, which is like really nice because it gives people, if they don't care about that town, they're not forced to play a card.
Yeah.
So it's like nice because you have a lot of decision space in that.
Definitely.
And also you draft these cards as well. They're not random. So that's quite like fun as well because you're picking what you want for that round and what you want to go for. And yeah, it's also quite interesting because you'd think in a game like this, you'd reveal at once what everyone's doing and then you win. But actually you take it by turns so you can see what people before you have played and like change accordingly, which is quite, I like the tactical nature of that.
Yeah, I think we always say games like this, just going back to how it's appealing for everyone, you could essentially just put a card down every round without really knowing what you're doing and probably still get some points, right? So it is a really nice game to introduce to people because it's relatively quick. It's not the quickest, but after the first few turns, like I said, even if they just put a card down, they're going to start to see the patterns and see why they're doing that.
Yeah.
But it's just a very low barrier to get started and get understanding and just play a game.
Yeah, like I said, I think this would be one of my top 3 games of, you have some friends over, maybe they're not like heavy gamers, they play with you. Yeah, you're not taking it too hard, you're having some drinks. Like, you just put this in front of them. I really, really enjoy playing Brian Boru. Next up, we have Carnegie. How do you say it?
Carnegie.
Carnegie.
No, you say Carnegie. I say Carnegie.
Carnegie. So, Carnegie. So, I thought it was Carnegie Hall. So, however you pronounce it, there's this game here. And this is probably, I think, fair to say, the best Euro we played last year.
Ooh.
Right? We both rated it quite highly, I think.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. I just never thought about it like that.
Like flat out standard Euro type game, right? Like new game anyway, at least. And we just haven't reviewed it. And this is the one we're probably most likely to review, I think, in the future. Maybe soon. It was just like, it was a bit weird. It's because we got it when we moved and we literally got it delivered like as we were moving to the house because there was a whole drama about it because UPS are useless. And yeah, so we didn't get to play it for a while because we were busy moving and then we're on holiday and then we had like a crappy little table that we dragged in from outside. And we just didn't play it, I think, even till we got like, I knew, so months and months after it filled. Even though we're really looking forward to it. And then it just took a while, really, to really like get into it.
Yeah.
And the way it plays is you have a big board with a map of America. There's places for discs and there's kind of routes between them. You have your own player board, which is made up of like little offices, and you have meeples that you put in the office. And if they're standing up, they're active and they either do an action or you send them out to the main map. To the regions where you're using them, and then depending on what action you pick, they'll come back and they'll give you income points. So it's like this nice strategic element of sending them out somewhere that's going to be likely to be triggered to get them back, to get more money and other stuff. But the kind of core of the game is you're putting these workers in these offices, right? And each office has like a different action. And the whole game is based around this action selection system, which is really interesting. There are 4 different actions, or like sections of the company, because you're kind of like building a company, I guess. And on your turn, you'll pick what action you want, and then everyone does that action.
Yeah.
And it will trigger something. It might trigger a donation where you can spend money to kind of put yourself in for victory point scoring based on how well you do something, or it'll bring your workers back, as said before. And then you all do that. And then it goes to the next player and they'll pick the next action. So part of the game is actually also about seeing where your opponents are and can you undercut them. And it says this in the rules where it's better for you to have an average action if your opponent's getting nothing than it is for you to have a really good action and them have a normal action. Because if you can make it so they basically can't do anything, they've lost one of the 20 actions in the game.
Yeah.
So it is kind of nice because it's interactive in that way. You're always looking at what other people are doing. And it's because of this system of the workers going out on the board that you start to lose workers from your departments. So then if you catch someone out, they just can't do anything.
Yeah.
And another great part is there's kind of like a tray of department tiles. And so you buy your own departments and they kind of become... Or you become
upgraded actions.
Yeah, and you become a bit asymmetric because you have special actions or a special way to score.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason why we like it so much, or at least why I like it so much, is...
I thought you didn't like it anymore.
We don't need to talk about why I might or might not like it anymore.
She wigged out the last time we played.
Twice. Did we play back to back?
Yeah, the first time you were fine. The second time you...
yeah, don't remind me. No, I still like it. If
still
I put that out of my mind. We love Euros. We play a lot of like medium to heavyweight Euros. But I think this just really adds a lot of fresh new twists on how Euros work. Like you said, there is this element of interaction in that everyone is doing the same action and you are forced to do whatever your opponents pick. So the action selection system is, I think, quite novel and fresh. The way that you get income is very interesting, I think. So you might kind of know, in a way you have to be a little bit reading your opponents very well, a bit psychic, see what you think they're going to do next, because you might not want to do an action in the east, let's say, but if you know your opponent is going to pick an action that is going to trigger getting your east workers back, you might need some money. So I'm just going to send a worker and do an action in the east, even though I didn't really want to do it, because I know that my opponent's going to, trigger the income. Yeah. So I think there's just a lot of like fresh new twists on what could otherwise be just like, a dry Euro about the economy and infrastructure and building. Yeah. But yeah, it's just really good production quality as well, like artwork, Tool, who's our favorite. Yeah. So it's just really engaging. A real puzzle, I think. All of these different elements which make it feel novel and fresh are very puzzly, thinking, but okay, I need to move all my workers to be in the right departments, but first I need to do this, and I need to have the workers back first, and everything's just very challenging, but in a good way, and just, puzzly and very fun.
Yeah, it's a really, really top Euro. So if you're into Euros, if you usually like our recommendations, this is one. Yeah. I think a lot of people have said it was like their favorite Euro of last year. It's quite popular, so it's definitely worth checking out. The biggest criticism I have, and probably the only criticism gameplay-wise, is that we have the Kickstarter version because we backed it, and it comes with like these extra kind of expansion modules. And I would say these are almost imperative to playing the game, because what happens is usually when you get these Kickstarter stuff, you get like a mini expansion and you play with it, you can not play with it. But what they do here is they kind of give you a few little modules, but one of them is department tiles, but it doubles the number of department tiles from the base game, which is like huge. It's like double the amount of content almost. And they're all quite interesting and good. And it's not like they're just Kickstarter things thrown in, with like silly powers. It almost feels like it's integral to the game and they should just be in the base game. And I don't know how available it is if you go out looking for it to get the Kickstarter version with this or the not. And then there's some other stuff as well. Like there's kind of a way that you kind of do, not an auction, but you bid for your starting resources. And who goes first. So you can like kind of get more of one resource at the start, and it kind of gives you like $50, right? And it's like, this is how much this costs, spend it how you want. And you can even go into negative and start with like negative points to get more and hope you make it up. It's really interesting, really fun. Although you could easily tank yourself. You'd never play it with a new player. You'd have to know the game, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even I can't. I'm not a new player. I can't strike that right balance.
So yeah, that's the one negative, but it's definitely still, I think, worth it on its own. But just be aware of that. I think it's a better game if you can get everything together. But yeah, that is Carnegie. Next up, we have No Thanks, which could be called Bordovit's game of 2022. Not because it was the best game we played or our favourite, but the one that we played a lot and had a big impact.
Yeah, it exploded, didn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of plays.
It's because it's quite interesting actually, because you can actually kind of homebrew this if you have numbered cards and any kind of tokens. You could use pennies if you wanted. And we basically did that because I think I heard about it and we were going to Florida with my family. I thought it would be like a fun one to play because it'd be like simple but addictive. So we jerry-rigged it with the cards from The Mind and trains from Irish Gauge.
Yeah.
And then we taught them to play it and they really loved it and we played it a lot. And then we eventually bought the proper copy and then played it with them some more, introduced it to friends, and it's just a really great little 10 to 15 minute, I don't even know what you call it. It's like a card game, but do you know what I mean? Like the angle, because it's like really...
Yeah, gambling.
You're playing the other players as much as you're playing the game.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
So do you want to say how it works?
Yeah, so you have cards numbered 1 to...
3.
What?
3 to 35.
3 to 35. And you also have tokens, like you said. And you said this the other day, and I totally did not realise this because you taught me the rules, but it's how we play is not exactly how the rules are. Yeah. But the way that we play, essentially, is that you will kind of gather cards throughout the game, and the values on the cards you could call negative points, and the tokens are positive points. So you kind of net them out at the end to get your total score. But there's a card that's flipped over that everyone's vying or not vying for every round. And if you want it, you say yes, please. But if you don't want it, you say no, thanks. But you have to put one of your limited tokens on the card when you say no, thanks. So the high numbers, of course, you don't really want them because they are negative points. So it's likely that that card will keep going around with everyone saying no thanks, and putting their token on. But of course, essentially, you're going to, at some point, run out of tokens. So it's a bit of a balance between, okay, there's quite a lot of tokens on this card because it's maybe gone around the table a few times. So I'm going to take it because the amount of tokens I get maybe balances out, or I'm going to run out of tokens. Versus taking cards that are just kind of lower numbers. But one of the twists is that if you get a run of cards, only the lowest card in that run will count towards your final score. So maybe you take a high number card like 30, but if you can try to get 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 and 30, only the 25 will count. So there's a little bit of kind of strategy in letting the card maybe go around the table a few times because other players don't want those high numbers, but then you want to get tokens, but then someone else might run out of tokens and end up taking the card that you want to make the number lower. So very simple, all you do is say yes please or no thanks, but actually there is quite a lot of decisions,
risk management.
What's the kind of word? Putting like a poker face on, right?
Yeah. And
trying to manipulate.
Well, to be fair, I would say it's pretty apparent what you want. It's just how willing are other players,
I suppose,
to entertain it.
Yeah.
But
you don't want to seem too desperate that you're running out of tokens, for instance.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because people will say, "Do you know what? I'm gonna let it go around because I know this person's running out of tokens, and they're going to end up with this high card, for instance, right?"
Yeah. I think the big twist that really makes the game work is that you at random take out 7 cards from this deck. So sometimes you won't be able to make those kind of runs because the cards aren't in the game. Because obviously it's all shuffled. So you might have 30 and then 28 might come out and you're like, okay, because I'll wait for 29. But then it might not be in the deck. Yeah. And then you're kind of stuck with 28 and 30.
And that's not good.
So there's a bit of gambling as well, which spices it up. And you keep your token secret, which is really fun because then you don't know. But it's, again, like you said, it's a bit of, you don't want someone to take the one you wanted because they have to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, got to keep an eye on what everyone has. And it's just a really interesting game because you would think if you end up having to get like the 34 or 35, you're out. But actually, many a game I've seen won because you get so many tokens from taking that. And then when these 33s, 32s come out, nobody else wants them still.
Yeah.
Only you do. So then you can let them go round and round and get tokens. Yeah. And I've seen people win just like 35, 34, 33, 32. And then they just have like, half the tokens in the game, right?
Yeah.
But so this is just a really terrific little, party game, pub game. But we fully recommend it. It's got some real bite to it.
Yeah.
That is no thanks. Here we have Age of Atlantis, something that we've really enjoyed. Although I haven't seen too much talk about it. I thought it was a fairly decently, in terms of backers, Kickstarter. But yeah, I just haven't really seen anything about it. But I also do think that this is a game people will either really enjoy or bounce hard off. I think it will just be very divisive. But it's, as I said, something we've really enjoyed and we think it's really cool. It's got an excellent production. And basically you're, I guess, people in the, I don't know what you are really, rulers of the citizens, rulers of Atlantis.
Yeah. I guess you're sending workers out.
It's a bit weird because you're almost like building your own city and workers, but all in the same city together.
True,
so, I don't know. Anyway, you're in Atlantis and it's worker placement and kind of tech trees and a little bit of combat as well, but it's kind of very simple.
Yeah.
And essentially what you're doing is you're going to play each an asymmetric house and you're going to have a player board which has 4 different tech tracks, 3 which are the same for all players, 1 of which is different and unique, which is where the asymmetry comes in. You're also going to have, think of the mechs from Scythe. You're going to have 3 of those, but here they're called myths. And they also have like a special unique power as well, unique to whichever mech you get. And you're going to have some workers, which are dice. And each face of the dice is like happy faces or sad faces. So you can have 2 happy faces, 1 happy face, or 1 sad face. And when you send a worker to the main board, the first action is free, but then you can take another action by turning it 1 to reduce its happiness, basically. So depending where you are, if your worker's only on 1 happy face, it will then go to a sad face because you've overworked it to take that second action. But if you're on 2, you can go to 1, then you've got 2 actions, and it's okay because they're still relatively happy. And it's a nice kind of push-pull balance because if you come back with sad workers, you lose favor with Poseidon. And this works like the popularity track in Scythe. So you score more the higher you are on it. And if you get all the way to the bottom, Poseidon loses his mind and gets really mad at you and does bad things. So you're sending these out and the city map is kind of divided into circular rings with little divisions in them. So you're sending them out to a little section of this ring and they're taking actions there, maybe gathering resources, maybe building a building, maybe taking actions at buildings you've already built, maybe upgrading your tech tree to get better actions and new actions and rewards. And it's very much a point salad and everything you're doing is getting points. Like every time you build a building, that's 5 points. You can upgrade, so every time you do this action, you get 2 points. So you're going to end up with very high scores and you're always getting here and there. But there's a lot of just really interesting points. The worker placement, kind of balancing, do I make them unhappy to take more actions? Yeah, exactly. You have to upgrade your workers to send them further outside of the main city. So then you're kind of like wasting a worker that turn to get a better one in the future. You can unlock more. The buildings all work in different ways and you can't really do everything at once. So every game is quite different because depending what tech tree you go down and what you focus on, it's a very different experience. If you're getting your myths out and having them attack people, because the city is invaded every round and you get like a row of cards at the bottom edge randomly, depending where they come in. And then every turn they're going to move forward. And if they get all the way to the main city, they're going to wreck it and destroy everything there, and everyone's going to lose favor with Poseidon because you weren't careful. Yeah. So it's almost like a semi-cooperative bid as well, except it's good to defeat these enemies because you get points in the end. But yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, we really like this game because you already mentioned a couple of times Scythe.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's definitely got that vibe, different enough that it's completely its own game and it's, you know, novel compared to Scythe, but the elements are there. So it's an efficiency puzzle. How many actions or things can you get out of each turn? There's a little bit of combat, but it's not like the entire game. And like you said, the favor track works with the popularity track to multiply your scores.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why we really like it. But perhaps other people might not like it as much as us because there is a little bit of randomness.
Yeah.
With regards to where the invading armies come in. So it could be one game, wherever you've built your buildings, the armies just keep coming and attacking where you are, whilst the other player gets off scot-free basically and doesn't have anyone coming towards them. So they can focus on just building buildings, gathering resources. They don't have to think about, you know, fighting off the enemies. So maybe some people wouldn't enjoy that. And there's also an element where Poseidon blesses a certain section of the board every round, and then that, if you take an action there, you get a free action. And again, that's random. It could just be that the same person is benefiting from that every time. But I think personally, you can just kind of lean into that. So I think I thought it was kind of annoying in our first couple of games that all of my sections of the board were getting invaded, but I realised after a while, actually, I just use it to my advantage. I'll just go down the kind of militaristic route.
Yeah.
Because you get points for beating them.
Yeah,
so,
you can also upgrade so that when you defeat them, depending which way you do it, if you use a myth, you can get points. If you just use Atlantean, you can get points if you upgrade, right? So then you're just farming points.
Exactly, yeah. So just leaning into that randomness means that you can mitigate it and even benefit from it. I think it just changes the way that you play because, like you said, it is quite different each game with the different houses as well, the asymmetry there.
Yeah.
I just think it's
I think
quite a novel
there's
experience every time.
Just a lot of interesting ideas, and we enjoy it because it really reminds us of Scythe, although it's different enough in its own right. But it's one of the best tech tree games I've played. I think in terms of like asymmetry of game to game, it's really interesting. I think the interactions between players are really interesting because you can use other people's buildings and you might have to, based on like where they put it, because if you have like a normal worker, which is called a peasant, they can only go on the inside ring. And if your opponents have taken the rings that give you ore, you're going to have to go there to like mine it, right? Because they can't go outside the city. Yeah. And then there's interesting ways they play with that with the factions. Like one faction, you basically put out tax stations. So if players use their own buildings, they have to give you get points. And alternatively, you can make it so your buildings, you like charge for people to use them. So you can litter buildings everywhere and then like make everyone, you get points from them. So there's just some really interesting stuff with how it works with like interaction as well, basically.
Yeah.
And you can also like almost cooperate a bit in terms of if you're getting worried about these armies coming down and someone's like got a myth and they're getting points from it, and you can be like, do you want to come over here and help me? But yeah, there's a few things I think you touched on. People won't like the randomness. I think there's like a few bits that are a little loose. Like the favor track, it's almost, I think, impossible to drop all the way down to the bottom and get Poseidon's Fury. But it's really easy also to go up to the top. Yeah. Like you'll almost never end in the first if you really like put your mind to it, right? Because there's an action that you can just increase your favor, right? And if you use 2 faces, you're already 4 up, and I think it maxes out at 20, right? So that's one thing. And I think it's also got this problem where it's got like a beautiful production. Yeah, really. But then some aspects are really weird, like the card quality is not wonderful. Although we said this before, I think that it's fine because it's not like you're using them a lot, you're just putting them on the board.
They're not being handled all the time.
But it's really weird to me that you have like such beautiful production and artwork and then you just have like really cheap quality cards, right? And then the rule book is a bit grim. It's one of those rule books where it really should have been like a 10-pager and they've put it into 4. I guess so they can say that it's a short rule book, but it just makes it hard to pass because everything's crammed in. It's organized poorly, things are missing. And the biggest sin of this game is because you have all these tech trees and buildings have actions and tech trees have actions, and you have like bosses with special actions, which are the enemies that come out. You have like all the houses with special abilities, and it's all crammed into this one A4 sheet of paper in like size 6 font.
Yeah.
And it's not in the correct order either, because 3 types of building every player has, and then the rest are unique. But it's one of these things where I know some people are going to be really annoyed by the rulebook. I mean, we're annoyed by it and we really like it, the game. But if you can get past that, it's definitely, I think the core thing here is there's a lot of interesting things. And if you're someone who likes games like Scythe, like us, you're probably going to enjoy it.
Yep.
So not for everyone, but we have, I mean, this is our list, so we have really, really enjoyed this. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we didn't cover it, is just because it won't be for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's some caveats and qualms. But yeah, we're going to keep playing it for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's really good fun, and there's kind of variants and scenarios it comes with, so looking forward to trying those as well. It's dual-layered board for a different map, so there's a lot of replayability beyond just the asymmetry. Before we close out the video, we just wanted to give some honorable mentions. And these are games that we basically would include on this list. It's just that we don't want the video to be too long. And we've already covered these in some of our other videos, whereas most of these games besides Carnegie, we haven't covered really before or touched upon. So number 1 would be Longshot, the dice game, which is something, honestly, it's one of our most played games, and we first got it back in April, and I think within like a month we played it something like 20 times.
Yeah.
And it's such a great little roll and write racing game. It's perfect for kind of party atmosphere, pub atmosphere, people yelling, rolling dice. But we've featured that in a few videos, so just going to give that an honourable mention. And
Got it out to take to a dinner party later.
That is definitely something you should look into for, I think, almost anyone. Then Rustling Leaves was probably our roll and write of the year.
Yeah.
We played that an insane amount of times. We took it on holiday. It's got different kind of maps you can play, so there's almost like 4 games in one using the same system.
Yeah. It's very cute, very beautiful, just cozy.
Yeah. So that's also something that's worth knowing if you like roll and writes.
Yes.
And then finally, shout out to Villagers, which was one of your favourite games of the year.
Big shout out to Villagers.
And it was on your top 10 list, so was Rustling Leaves, which is another reason that I'm not going to cover it necessarily here. But just also, you can include those games in this list, basically. So yeah.
So yeah, we hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know if you like this format, and we'll probably do it again in the future. We'd really appreciate it if you could give us a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Subscribe to our channel if you're not already. We are usually doing kind of 15-minute reviews of usually medium to heavyweight games, but really a mix of everything, as well as kind of list videos. We have a series called Best Board Games for 2 Players, not specifically designed for 2 players, which is quite popular. But please feel free to ask us any questions about the games that we featured in this video. We'd be very, very happy to talk about them and answer anything. And let us know if you've played any of them and if you agree or disagree with our thoughts. But thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.